They say the dead leave us only memories, but what if one reached out across the boundary of life to give a warning? For Marcus, it started as a normal evening, until his phone rang at midnight. The caller ID displayed the name of an old friend, Daniel, who had died months ago. The voice on the line was unmistakable, and it spoke with desperate urgency. Don't go on your trip. Should he believe such an impossible call, or dismiss it as a twisted prank? Tonight, you'll journey with Marcus toward a moment when disbelief and fate collide. It was the kind of night where silence settles like a shroud. Marcus sat alone in his living room, scrolling through old photos of trips he had taken with Daniel, memories that brought both comfort and sorrow. A part of him still hadn't accepted his friend's passing. It had been a freak accident on a remote hiking trail, leaving Daniel lost to the wilderness before rescue teams could arrive. So when Marcus's phone buzzed at 12:04 a.m. and Daniel's name glowed on the screen, his heart lurched. That number had been out of service for months, or so he thought. Fighting a surge of adrenaline, he answered, half expecting static or a hoax. Instead, Daniel's familiar voice crackled through the speaker, tinged with desperation. "Marcus," the voice rasped, "don't go on that trip. Please, you have to trust me." Marcus pressed the phone tighter to his ear, unable to speak. Daniel's words were clipped, echoing as if carried from a great distance. Then the line went dead, leaving only the soft hum of static. Rattled, Marcus spent the rest of the night pacing. Was he dreaming, or had he answered a ghost's call? He glanced at his packed bags, preparing for his weekend getaway to the mountains. Logic told him to ignore the call, yet dread gnawed at his thoughts. Sometimes, even after death, a friend's last warning may hold the power to alter one's fate. The following morning arrived too soon, full of mundane tasks that felt oddly surreal in the wake of last night's call. Marcus tried to rationalize what he'd heard. Maybe it was just a glitch in the phone system, or some cruel prank orchestrated by someone who knew Daniel. But as he ran errands for his impending trip, the memory of that frantic voice refused to fade. He confided in Lily, his close friend and co-worker, about the bizarre incident. She reacted with a mixture of disbelief and concern. "You've been under a lot of stress," she said gently, sipping her coffee. "Maybe your subconscious is playing tricks on you." Yet her eyes betrayed a hint of alarm when she realized how shaken he was. Throughout the day, odd coincidences kept cropping up. A canceled meeting left Marcus with free time he hadn't expected. The radio in his car randomly switched stations, landing on static right when he was thinking of Daniel. On top of that, a rogue breeze knocked over a framed photo of them, taken during their last trip together, spilling shattered glass across the counter. By evening, Marcus stood among his packed gear. The cabin reservation in the mountains was non-refundable, and he'd planned this solo trip for months to clear his head. A call from beyond the grave shouldn't dictate his life, right? Yet a subtle dread lingered, as though the final chapter of Daniel's story had yet to be written. Determined to push aside the unsettling call, Marcus set out on the road the next morning, the sunrise painting the sky in pale pinks and golds. He turned on his favorite playlist, hoping that music would calm his nerves. For a while, the drive felt almost normal. An open highway, the hum of tires on pavement, and a crisp breeze rushing through the cracked window. But unease persisted. He noticed an unusual number of crows gathered on fence posts along the route, their black eyes following his car as if in silent warning. The road sign for the next gas station flickered out just as he approached, plunging the exit ramp into momentary darkness. Brief static interrupted the radio, crackling in Daniel's voice for a split second before merging back into a guitar solo. At a rest stop, Marcus splashed water on his face, telling himself to relax. He'd soon be at the cabin, where nature and fresh air would chase away these lingering ghosts of grief. Yet each time he checked his phone, he half expected to see Daniel's name again. Pressing on, the road wound through forests, the sunlight weaving through tall pines. Daniel's last words echoed in his mind. "Don't go." Marcus tried to believe that forging ahead was the right choice, perhaps the only way to break free from the weight of the impossible call. Little did he know, he was hurtling toward the moment where everything would converge in a shattering twist of fate. By late afternoon, Marcus arrived at the remote cabin nestled deep in the mountains. The air here smelled of pine and damp earth, a tang that reminded him of times he and Daniel had hiked similar trails. Pulling up to the rickety porch, Marcus killed the engine and exhaled, hoping that solitude would bring clarity. Inside, the cabin's rustic charm felt both inviting and eerie. A single lamp illuminated a modest living area, the wooden walls adorned with antlers and faded photos of long-ago hunters. Shadows flickered along the floor as Marcus set his bags down. He couldn't shake a nagging sense of being watched, as though the echo of Daniel's warning lingered in every corner. Nightfall swept across the mountain quickly. Marcus lit a small fire in the stone fireplace, its warmth offering a brief sense of comfort. Yet every crackle of the flames conjured images of Daniel's last phone call, that urgent plea to stay away. Was it possible that Daniel had glimpsed something beyond death, a danger that lay in wait on these very slopes? Trying to steady his nerves, Marcus poured himself a mug of tea. Outside, the wind whispered through the pines, sounding eerily like distant voices. Over and over, Daniel's warning replayed in his thoughts. In that dimly lit cabin, he found himself asking a question he never thought he'd consider. Could the dead truly reach out to save the living? Determined to prove that he could conquer fear, Marcus woke before dawn for an early hike. The trail was steep and lined with ancient pines, their towering forms silencing any doubt he had about nature's power. His breath plumed in the crisp morning air as he ascended, pushing aside the anxiety knotting in his stomach. At first, the trek felt exhilarating. The crunch of gravel underfoot, the distant murmur of a waterfall. These were the serene moments he had craved. But then the weather shifted with startling speed. Clouds rolled in, heavy and gray, swallowing the sun. A cold wind whipped through the trees, scattering leaves across the path. Marcus paused, unsettled by how swiftly calm had turned to foreboding. Halfway up the mountain, he found an overlook. The valley below stretched in a patchwork of evergreens and boulders, a breathtaking sight. Yet the silence felt unnatural. No birds sang, and not a single branch rustled. Marcus pulled out his phone to snap a picture, only to see the screen flicker. The battery plummeted from 60% to 0 in seconds. The device died, leaving him suddenly disconnected. With the storm intensifying, thunder boomed in the distance. Marcus recalled Daniel's final words. "Don't go on that trip." Too late now, he thought grimly. He turned to head back, but the path was cloaked in shadows, and a single misstep could mean disaster. As the sky opened in a deluge, Marcus scrambled down the slippery trail, each flash of lightning revealing jagged cliffs looming on either side. His heart hammered, regret scorching his every thought. Had Daniel truly tried to save him with that otherworldly calm? If so, ignoring it might have sealed his doom. A misstep came quicker than expected. His boot slipped on a mossy rock, and he plunged down a steep slope, tumbling through wet leaves and sharp branches. The world spun in a blur of rain and pain. He finally slammed into a tree trunk, air forced from his lungs. Agony shot through his body, but panic surged higher. He was alone, battered, and possibly pinned on a mountainside with no phone, no help. Disoriented, Marcus thought he heard something over the thunder. Daniel's voice? Weakly lifting his head, he noticed a faint glow hovering just beyond the tree line. A figure stood there, impossible to see clearly through the sheets of rain, yet the silhouette seemed hauntingly familiar. Could it be his friend, guiding him? Summoning what remained of his strength, Marcus crawled toward the figure, but the vision blinked out like a candle in the wind. A final flash of lightning illuminated the reality. He was alone in a remote wilderness, exactly as Daniel had been. The storm howled in triumph, drowning his pleas for help. And in that final moment, Marcus understood that the last call was never a threat. It was a plea to spare him from the tragedy fate had already chosen. Thank you for joining us in this haunting tale of a friend's desperate warning from beyond the grave. Do you believe that those we've lost can still protect us in unexpected ways, or is such a notion too terrifying to consider? Share your thoughts below. And if this story left you questioning the boundary between coincidence and fate, remember to like, subscribe, and stay tuned to Dare to Listen for more stories that test the limits of reason. Because sometimes, the voice you ignore might be the one that saves your life.